also, we want to know your opinion about the fight which happened last month. That was the biggest event in good last couple of years. It was the fight between Carl Froch and George Groves, which happened in Wembley. Just want to remind that there was 80,000 people watching this fight live on stadium. And what do you think about George Groves' performance, about this fight and about the KO which he received?
A great spectacular. I was there myself, as I know George well. The atmosphere was tremendous. I've never been to a fight with such a great atmosphere. As you say, the biggest ever crowd that we've had in England for any boxing, certainly since the war. I think after the George, after the first fight was probably a little bit apprehensive this time, whereas the first time he went in completely fearless and boxed to his own strengths. I still maintain that even though George was knocked out, George boxed the fight in a much smaller ring than what he should have boxed in. I think if you watch both fights, George could outbox Carl Froch in the centre of the ring. In the centre of the ring, Carl Froch couldn't really touch George. But as soon as George got near the ropes, Froch was taking over near the ropes, pushing him back with his strength. Obviously, Froch being the stronger man out of the two, which the strength comes with age, because I'm sure George will get stronger later on. But yeah, centre of the ring, George outboxed him. And being that the second fight, was in a much smaller ring, I think George was on the ropes pretty much too many times than what he should have been. And it's no coincidence that the knockout come with George's back to the ropes. When Froch likes an opponent near the ropes, because that's where he does his best work. And I think that the biggest major factor in the fight was the smaller ring, which didn't help George. I think George will come back. George is still young enough. He's up there now. He's mixing with the not only boxing world-class fighters, but also sparring. I spoke to George a couple of days ago, and he's planning to go to America for some 2 weeks of sparring with Golovkin. So that should put him in good stead.
That's quite brave.
Yeah, yes, very brave. Yeah. So hopefully George will gain some much needed experience with Golovkin, and I'm sure he will come back a much better boxer.
Yeah, that's quite brave decision from George Groves to go to States and having the sparring session with Golovkin. And also, as you mentioned, you know George personally, and do you think he will be the same fighter after those two losses, and especially after that second fight when he lost by KO? Because obviously he was winning the fight up to the moment when he received that punch. But you have to say it was like perfect timing from Carl Froch, and I don't really think anyone could avoid this punch.
I think one thing about George is mentally tough. I mean, just as we've just previously mentioned, that it shows true strength of character even after a bad knockout. He hasn't got a second thought about going across to America and sparring with the best out there, and probably pound for pound the biggest puncher in the world. And that's George's attitude. He doesn't do anything by halves. He still wants to win world titles, and he's still ready to take the chance and not avoid anyone, and go in there fully with anybody in the world, whether it be sparring or competing with them. George is mentally very tough. He's had previous setbacks in his career. As an amateur, he come back as well known from a broken jaw as an amateur, and I think the jaw was broke in the first round, but just carried on through the fight. He's never let any injuries or setbacks bother him. He's always come back stronger. So I think this time will be no different. I think it would just it's in the past with George now with the knockout, and he would go forward from now.